want you to imagine you buy a car. A nice car, $2,000, not a banger, a premium car, leather seats. The works, and then 18 months later the tyre goes flat. And the mechanic looks at you and says, sorry mate, we glued the tyres on, you'll have to buy a new car. You'd burn the dealership down, rightfully so. But when a laptop manufacturer does the exact same thing, solders the RAM, glues the SSD, welds the battery shut, we just go, oh well, guess I need a new one. Not today. Today we talk about how Apple, Dell and HP are selling you glorified e-waste and charging you £2,000 for the privilege. Let's start with RAM. The most basic, fundamental, upgradable part of any computer since the 1980s. Apple soldered RAM to the MacBook motherboard starting with the M1 in 2020. Dell followed with the XPS 13 Plus, HP Spectre. Same story. Unified memory they call it. Sounds fancy, doesn't it? It is faster. I'll give them that. But here's what they don't put in the press release. You buy 8 GB, you're stuck with 8 GBs. Forever. RAM fails, the whole motherboard goes. That will cost you £600 minimum. Upgrading to 16 GB on a Mac costs £200 at checkout. A stick of DDR5 is £40 on Amazon. Apple charges you £200 to go from 8 to 16 GB. The actual cost of that RAM is about £25. They're not selling you performance. They're selling you planned obsolescence and calling it innovation. When your old laptop with swappable RAM felt slow, you dropped in a new stick for £40 and got 3 more years out of it. Apple's unified memory means when software gets heavier, and it will, you're buying a new laptop. Next up, the SSD storage. The thing that holds literally everything you own digitally. On every laptop worth buying before about 2018, the SSD was an M2 stick. Little card, 2 screws, swap it in 5 minutes, drive fails, new one in, need more space, upgrade, dead easy. The HP Spectre 14 soldered, the Dell XPS 13 Plus soldered, MacBook Air M2 and M3 soldered. If your SSD fails outside of warranty, and SSDs do fail, ask anyone in IT, you cannot recover your data at home. You are at the mercy of Apple's or Dell's repair shop, and they will quote you a motherboard replacement. That's not a repair, that's extortion. And here's the fun bit with Apple specifically, they had a known storage failure issue. On the 2017-2019 MacBooks, logic board failures, solder drives gone. Apple ran a repair program for a limited time. After that, out of luck mate, £2,000 laptop, your data is just gone. Batteries. Lithium-ion batteries degrade. This is not a secret. Apple's own website admits an iPhone battery is at 80% capacity after 500 charge cycles. Laptops are the same. So what used to happen? You bought a laptop, the battery got tired after 3 or 4 years, you spent £20 on a replacement battery on eBay, watched a YouTube video, and you had another 3 years in the machine. Job done? Now let's go through our 3 culprits. MacBooks. Apple glues the battery to the trackpad cable housing with industrial adhesive. iFixit gave the MacBook Air a repairability score of 1 out of 10. 1 out of 10. As a toaster is more repairable than a MacBook Air. Apple will charge you $199 to replace a MacBook battery out of warranty. The battery itself costs about £30. Now the Dell XPS. The XPS 13 Plus has the battery adhered down, keyboard screwed from inside, and a teardown that requires a heat gun before you've even touched the screw. Dell's own support forums are full of people saying they bricked their machines trying to change the battery. Now the HP Spectre, the Spectre name is supposed to mean elite engineering. Their battery replacement guide runs to 47 steps, not a typo. 47 steps to swap a component that degrades by design. A battery is a consumable. Every manufacturer knows it will die. Designing around battery access is not engineering, it is contempt for the customer. Right? Let's talk about thin. Every year, Apple, Dell, HP, they all come out and say their new laptop is thinner than last year's, and the tech press goes absolutely feral. It's gorgeous. It's a feat of engineering. Look how thin it is. And I'm sitting here going, thin for who? You know what thin means in thermal physics? Less room for cooling, less room for a fan that actually works, less room for a heat sink. So manufacturers do one of 2 things. They either throttle the CPU, meaning it runs slower than it's supposed to, or they let it run hot and loud and burn through your lap. The MacBook Pro 14 with M3 Pro, absolutely brilliant chip. Genuinely incredible performance when it can breathe. Shove it in a sleeve, do some video encoding in a warm room, watch it downclock itself to protect from heat. That's your Pro machine. Dell XPS 15, consistently reviewed with CPU throttling under sustained load. Notebook Tech documented it throttling to 15 watts on a 45 watt chip. You're getting a third of the performance you paid for. HP Spectre X360, great chassis, genuinely nice display, fan noise, that sounds like a 737 taken off the moment you open Photoshop. But the laptops have to look good in a photograph, and a thick laptop doesn't look good in a photograph, so your machine runs hot, throttles, and sounds like it's about to achieve liftoff. But it's incredibly thin! Congratulations! Here's the bit that gets me, really gets me. You spend £2,000 on a laptop. £2,000, that's rent money. That's a holiday, that's a used car. And 18 months later, the charging port gets flaky, or the keyboard starts double typing, or, and this happened to someone I know, one key on the keyboard just stops working. One key on a laptop with a replaceable keyboard. £30 part 20 minutes on YouTube sorted. On a MacBook Pro, Apple replaces the entire top case. That's the keyboard, the battery, the trackpad, and the speakers, all as one unit because they're all assembled together. Cost £500 to £700 for one key. Dell had a period where the XPS keyboard was notorious for failures. The fix, entire palm rest assembly. £200 to £300 because the keyboard isn't a component anymore, it's a structural part. And this is the business model, isn't it? Make the repairs so expensive that buying a new one starts to feel rational. That is not engineering, that is a subscription model in hardware form. Here's the thing though, this is starting to change. Because people got loud, the EU Right to Repair Directive came into force. The UK is working on similar legislation. Apple, and this is remarkable, opened their self-repair program. You can now buy genuine Apple parts and repair your own device. It's still not easy, but it's movement. Framework laptop exists, fully modular, every component replaceable, RAM, SSD, ports, battery, all user serviceable. It's not as thin as a MacBook, it's not as polished as a Spectre, but it's yours. You own it. Louis Rosman has been fighting this fight for years. Our Fixit publishes teardowns and sells parts. The pressure is working, slowly, painfully slowly, but it's working. But until every manufacturer is required by law to make their devices repairable, understand what you're buying. You are not buying a product, you're leasing a product and paying full price for the privilege. If this made you angry, good, share it. Because the only thing these companies understand is losing sales, and the only way that happens is if people know what they're actually buying. Okay, see you next time.